Do you think that the world will become a better place in the next decade? Will we achieve reduced inequalities, good health and well-being, sustainable cities, zero hunger, and so on? Do we have the power to achieve all these goals by 2030?
Although the world seems to be suffering from so many problems, including corruption, diseases, climate change, and terrorism, surprisingly, it is still possible to make this world a better place by 2030 if we promote the SDGs through action. Join us as we fight for SDG1 and open the path for achieving all the other Sustainable Development Goals.
As this graph suggests, the average GDP per capita has a direct relationship with the Global Social Progress Index, which means that increase in GDP will most of the time lead to an increase in the performance of nations in providing the social and environmental needs for their citizens.
It's clear that the government has a direct role in all of this, but the real question is, how can we, the citizens, contribute to achieving the goal of reducing poverty? The answer to this question is simple at essence. We need to engage on a grassroots level, sharing what we collectively have within developed communities with regions stricken by poverty and lack of infrastructure. Through a systematic approach that categorically addresses parts of underdeveloped regions, the fight against poverty becomes less like suppressing a wildfire, and instead more like nurturing a weak yet blossoming garden.
Our proposed solution will initiate this process through a series of stages enabling corporate development within underdeveloped communities that will stimulate economic growth, paving the way for new jobs, improved education, and thus a cycle of sustainable development.
Our proposal is based on a general premise comprising of 4 stages acting as a universal model for economic development. The first stage of the model begins with raising awareness as to what the needs and demands of a local region are. Raising awareness would entail things like using radio advertisements or presentations that would detail the most essential factors required by a region. The focus of Stage 2 would be to initiate knowledge campaigns and programs that would spread constructive advice as to how these small businesses can maximize their profit, best market their services, and finally expand all of that. This knowledge can be easily acquired through the donation of accounting textbooks, the hosting of entrepreneurship workshops at local community centers. With the novel businesses set on a sustainable trajectory, the work of Stage 3 will be to foster community initiative towards supporting local business units. Meanwhile, the businesses can be encouraged to develop loyalty programs that will motivate long-term ties between them and consumers, creating a connection that benefits both ends of the table as the businesses optimize profits while citizens gain a stable source of essential products. Honest interactions between the two parties will also be greatly emphasized in order to create an environment of integrity and unified initiative.
Those 4 stages will be supplemented by a final factor provided by those from developed communities.
However, only reduced poverty might not be enough to reach the global goal by 2030. China, which is currently the second wealthiest country in this world, is placed 89th in the Global Social Index score ranking with a score of 64.54. On the other hand, Costa Rica, which is placed 79th in the World GDP ranking, is placed 34th in the Global Social Index score ranking with a score of 80.65. This data clearly shows that social index score does not solely depend on the wealth of a country, but also on how the wealth is used by the country.
What system, then, should a country use to reduce poverty without negatively impacting social progress through factors like cheap labor that would increase GDP? Let's see how the stages of our model, raising awareness, spreading knowledge, fostering initiative and engagement, and fundraising, can be implemented in the specific economic environments of Brazil, Colombia, and Egypt. A large proportion of the Brazilian population lives in slums, where clean water, sanitation, and stable food supplies are lacking and majorly inaccessible. We would start implementing our model in one of these slums by dividing it up into units. Each unit would consist roughly of 10% of the slum's population. Awareness in regard to the need for accessibly clean water and sanitation along with quality food would be raised through local news and television stations. With that, our Stage 2 workshop and business leaders would step in to help mentor the young entrepreneurs as they begin establishing their businesses. From then on, partnerships with community building projects and the news channels in Brazil, such as SP1 in São Paulo, would further incentivize community engagement with businesses and fundraising on the part of developed community members. This would plant the seed of productive business work in the minds of the new employees and in that of the consumers who see the benefit it has brought to them. Meanwhile, within Egypt, there is a need for proper learning environments in public schools centered around underdeveloped communities. Our main intent would be to encourage local community members to begin construction businesses in order to provide these public schools with proper resources and the necessary repairments. This would become a reality through the proper training of those wishing to start the business. And mentors would be found through partnerships and volunteer programs as in these other scenarios. Transactions would be made between the school and the business, providing profits for the owners, whilst also providing a much better learning environment for students throughout these communities. Altogether, a cycle of job creation would initiate along with something more profound, such as planting a seed of sustainability in those attending these improved schools.
Now, within Colombia, our model will be implemented with the intention of reducing poverty through the campaign increase of skills imperative to jobs on the common market. This would include providing digital literacy through the donation of computer usage books and through volunteer students who will be willing to help out. Along with this, we will increase job opportunities in forgotten regions such as the Pacific, Caribbean, and the Amazon. In the meantime, fundraising will be achieved through street-side promotion. Such fundraising would also be channeled towards support to foundations who help poor families in order to increase their funds and provide resources to initiate campaigns and donation series. In short, working towards economically invigorating a region would contribute much to the accomplishment of other SDGs, while also reducing poverty rates through a modular and grassroots approach. These recently described initiatives are not meant to immediately improve the lives of entire populations in a year or two.
Quite to the contrary, in fact, these solutions will plant a seed of financial and corporate literacy founded in resourcefulness and engagement within these developing communities. Over time, that seed will eventually bear fruit through the development of major businesses and networks that will soon sustain communities economically in successive years, altogether allowing for poverty to be ultimately reduced by significant levels. And we plan to do that all part by part so that we can soon affect the whole. Together, we take action.
Action brings change.
Change brings development.
With the first step taken, we are now closer to achieving all 17 SDGs by 2030.
A better and sustainable world is in our near future.